Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Ignite SAT Mastery Program, where today we'll be covering Lesson 6 of Module 2, Tackling Dual Passages. Now, dual passage questions can be a little tricky, but there are the fewest dual passage questions on the reading section. Now, these are a couple examples of dual passage questions, and the best way to indicate if these are in fact dual passage questions is by looking at the wording. Now, in each of these questions, you can see passage 2 and passage 1 clearly labeled in either the answers or in the questions. Now, the way you want to answer these questions depends on the questions beforehand. These are going to be the last questions you want to answer when looking at a passage. These questions usually require background knowledge when reading these passages, so it's best to do all the citation, the paired answers, the vocabularies, and even the big idea per passage questions first. Now, let's take a moment to read these dual passages and look at how we would answer question 49, the statement that best describes the relationship between the passage. Alright, now that you have read that, let's take a look at some of the key features of each passage. Now, the relationship is clearly indicated by a passage-to-passage difference. Either a refutation to a central claim, a phenomenon described, a practicality of proposal, or a reservation about developments. Now, passage 1 mostly has an optimistic view of this specific topic of space mining. It says follow the money and you will end up in space. The form comes on Hot Wheels, kind of showing, again, an optimistic view of this new, hot, this creative, this crazy new concept that could be really good for the economy. Within a few decades, again, showing optimism. In this scenario, again, showing a scenario in which this could be useful. Now, passage 2, on the other hand, goes a little more in depth on some of the implications. It talks about a discovery to economics. It talks about some people arguing, and it also says that history suggests, based on past things, that it may or may not be difficult to persuade the public that such of these environments are actually worth preserving. And they also consider an emerging off-world economy. So a lot of these are about practicality, I would say, or a reluctance to engage with such questions. Now, based on that, this question mostly talks about the reservations in passage 2 against passage 1, where passage 1 is all the optimism presented about the topic of space mining. Passage 2 goes specifically into each unique indication why this could be, like a bad thing in general. And in this case, every single topic, such as like an economic perspective, the past of history, other arguments, emerging off-world economy, represent a reservation that is a reluctant outlook on space mining. So in that case, passage 2 expresses reservations about developments discussed in passage 1 is the correct answer, and D is the correct answer. Now, let's look at some tips when answering dual passage questions. You always want to answer these questions last, and this is a big emphasis. These questions can be very tricky to answer if none of the context of the passages are known. But remember, answering our vocabulary, our paired answers, our big idea questions, and our citation questions will be crucial for knowing the content in each passage specifically. Now, it's important to, of course, read all of our notes and the previous questions and the answers we put, because those are going to highlight some of the, discrepancies that the two passages could have. Next, we're going to remove some of these answer choices, some of them that don't highlight any relationship between passage 1 or passage 2 or what they have to say about each other. And lastly, all we're going to do is reference our answer to the ones we figured in the passages, the ones that we could, initially come up with a brief idea that could relate to one of the answer choices. And if these two mash up, you are most nearly always going to be correct.